Okay, let's talk about state here, and this is going to be really cool. I have a little bit of I look at the code and I was like, hey, these are the things we can improve, and I'm gonna show you quickly the things that could be improved. So before we start here, I have a little thing that I would love to show you quickly. Remember we built that server here for the product, and what that thing was actually doing is it's get all product, and then it provides you fake data from Faker. You probably didn't watch. If you I create a series called "You Don't Need a Variable for This," right? It's a little series where I take piece of code that I see on the internet here and there, and on real project shipped in production, where I basically refactor code and show you that, hey, that one there, you don't need a variable for this, right? And I'm gonna show you that with this one. So here, for example, you have the way that person built it. Thought, okay, I'm gonna create a variable, fake product. Then I just need 10 of them on the page. So they create 10 right here. And then they loop through that array that is being created. So once they do this here, they basically have an empty array with 10 slots, right? It's basically 10 slots, right? And then they loop through it, and then for each of the slots, they're going to push things in that array, right? And it's cool, it's working, but actually, it's not necessary. You don't need all these variables and so on and so forth. You just don't need to do all this push, because from the moment you have an array, you can simply just do a mapping. And the main advantage of the map is you don't need to push anything. You just have to return each of the element in the loop. So I'm just gonna remove that part, and I'm going to remove this one, and then here, right here, we just have to return. The things that we need here, right? So once I have returned this, now the only thing I need left, let me move up here. We can remove that fake thing and just need to return that part and go back all the way down here, remove that. So if you look at this, I'm gonna make it a little bit smaller. If you look at this, you see now I'm just creating, I'm dealing with a stream of data coming in there, and then map, then do the all the magic in there. Whenever I'm done with it, I just return each of the objects that are being created inside there. Yeah, that's basically a quick tip that you can find on my series. I have a few examples like that. Now let's go back to state management right there. What we have is the fact that in our code, we have a component, and then somewhere here below there is a folder that contains auth context, and that basically labeled as the state. So this one here is gonna be, if depending on your level, it could be completely like really heavy, the refactor I'm going to do here, but that's gonna help you understand quite a lot of things about JavaScript, TypeScript, hopefully, whenever we migrate to TypeScript, but also just state management in general in the context of React. But a lot of things I'm going to be doing here could be ported in other technology like Vue.js or Angular, Svelte, because we're talking about state management, and every single app has to deal with it in a way or another, right? So what do we have? Here, what we're going to do is, let's take, for example, the layout component. So we see that layout component make use of that, need some state. So you see here on line 11, you need that state. And then from the state, you need something called is model open and form type and things like that. So another quick tip here is, first, you don't want to write that in line like this. You're not making it's cool, it looks short and things like that, but you're making it difficult for anyone to jump into the code in a way. But that's fine. If you're alone and that's your thing, please do it. The first thing I will do here is first to remove this and then create cost state right at the bottom here, so I don't need a state, but I need to basically take it from the state. Right, our application should still work, and it makes it already a little bit visible there. But you might say you don't need a variable for this, and you will be completely right. But yeah, in some cases you do need a variable to avoid like a quick misunderstanding in the code, right? So now what I want to do here is to show you that that entire thing, you don't need to expose that to the component. If you go to the component, not model, we had another component there that was using it. Let's close that product. Let's see on the product page, no, product from component. Do we have it here? Not really over here. So let's see inside component. We have a few other components that are actually using the same approach. What about this one? Not really. And I believe it was out, right? So if you look at this, we also have the same thing right here. So you don't really need to expose that to the component, right? So let's go and quickly I will show you how you can do it. So we're gonna go into the out context, and what we're exposing outside is that out context, and that out context as a shape. The shape is this one, is the shape, a shape of an object that contains its model, form type, and the session. So what you could do here, you can just export something called a use out context, right? That thing there is you can think of it as a function, and what that function is going to do, well, it's just going to return you is going to return you the out context, right? The out context this way, right? So what are we really doing with that out context? Let me quickly check here. Yeah, so what are we really doing with that out context here? We actually, you don't return the out context. You're gonna basically use the use context and then return the use context, and then you pass it this way, right? Now what you just got here, that this little code right there represents now basically what you have in out. Look at this, it's use out context, and you do it's the same thing that is here, but now I'm basically calling it like use. I create a hook out of that in a way. I call it hooks, right? But just calling use out context. But now that I have this, what I could simply do is I go in here and I know that thing, it returns that state. So I will go in here and then say, let's remove that part, and then put it this way, create a variable like this. And now right at the bottom, I'm gonna return, instead of returning the use context, I'm just gonna return anything that is available in there. So const, open that, let me put it this way, and then you're gonna get it from the state. And what do we get from the state? We get the form type, we get the let me go to layout. We're going to see that inside layout better. So actually what I just need to do is to remove that entire thing, go to out context, and then I can replace all that code with this, right? And now I can return is model, form type, and session, right? I can now return these three things. So, and once you do that, you now have, I can also return dispatch, because we're gonna need dispatch in the component to kind of dispatch event, right? So this is my use out context right there, and that isolates this part. And you can start adding many other things here. Your component don't need to know about it. Now, what do you do at the component level? Let's go to the layout. At the layout part, layout level, we don't need this part, but now we need use out context, right? And once we have the use out context, what we just need to do from it, what we need to get from it is whatever that thing needs. And what do you need here? You need a session, and I believe that you also need, let's see what's in red here, and we also need is model open, right? So if you go back up here, you see now that we went from multiple lines right there to that one line here, and the use odd context is exposing the things that layout is on the layout needs. And we can do the same thing with the alt right here. Same thing here, we don't need all of that, but we need the state and the dispatch, right? So let me go right here, and let me make sure that we put it this way. And now I'm going to go here and say cost use odd context, so it's being exported at the top here. And now what I need right at the bottom here, I need two things. I need the session. No, here you needed the dispatch, and you need the form type, basically, right? So you have form type here that is being used, and then dispatch that is used to actually dispatch things right here, right? So that is the dispatch right here. So this is already a pretty good step. Like, let me remove this, and we also saw that here we don't need that React part. And then for the hooks, we can remove that. We don't need that part. And the state is good, and the rest seems to be quite okay right there. So we're also going to see a little bit later that loading and set loading, you can also get rid of it, because if you use a tool like React Query, you start making it, you don't have to handle the loading and set loading. There is a tool there's a tool that does it for you, right? So yeah, you see this is working really well again, hopefully, and you understand what we did there. So a quick recap of what we've done. I will go to the state, and at the state level, what I did is I just took that odd context, which was right here. It was being used like that everywhere, so you are importing the same thing. And then here I'm just saying, hey, listen, let me isolate that entire thing, and then make sure that I just expose the thing the component will need, right? So now that's already one thing. Hopefully you get what we did there, and I'm quickly going to branch that out, and we're going to say isolated the context, right? So that's basically what we did there. Isolate the context from the component. All right, so that's what we did there. Now what I'm going to do now is something a little bit heavier. So strings are bad. I'm gonna say that again. Strings are really bad, and this video is already going under like 14 minutes. So what I'm going to do is quickly pause here and then come back to strings are bad, and we're gonna stick to this file and make sure that that file is really well written. So you stick with me, like make sure that you look at me right there in the eyes, right? You stick with me, and in the next video I'm gonna show you why strings are bad and how you can refactor that code to make sure that strings become your friends. See you in the next video. Cheers.